Section 5.3, Comparing and Contrasting. Comparing and contrasting are such natural habits that we sometimes forget how important they are in our lives. From infancy, we notice similarities. The dog is like the cat. Both are warm, have tails, and run. We also notice differences. The dog is different from the cat. One barks, one meows. One wags its tail in pleasure, the other in anger. When we point out similarities between things, we are comparing them. When we point out differences, we are contrasting. We learn by comparing and contrasting the new and unfamiliar with the old and the familiar. We see a citron for the first time. What is it like? Well, we notice that it bears some similarity to a lemon. It is pale yellow and has a rind. On the other hand, we notice that the citron is larger and more acrid than the lemon. Observation is the key. The more careful and detailed the observations, the more effectively the reader can see similarities and differences in the subject under discussion. Writers employ two basic organizational techniques when they compare or contrast. Sometimes they deal with, say, two people, point by point. They look at their heights first, then their ages, their occupations, and so on. At other times, it will be better to describe the first person completely, and then move on to the second, and finally emphasize similarities and differences in a summary. The choice of technique is just another decision writers habitually make. Travel presents rich opportunities for comparison and contrast. James Meitner and Mary Taylor give us incisive and balanced views of places they have traveled to. But many of the writers are seeing places for the first time and are writing for people who haven't been there at all. In these cases, they often shed light on the unfamiliar by setting it against the familiar. Thomas Smith writes about a soccer game to illustrate contrast he has found in Central America. Mary Manning uses the theater to highlight the contrast between Belfast and her ordinary world. And John Updike compares the rich and poor in Venezuela by explaining a system of class distinctions that might startle the typical American. We see something of the world through the seasoned traveled writers, and in this way we can compare the strange places with our own. The places that you have traveled may be near or far away, real or imaginary, but you can make any place interesting to your reader by singling out those details that struck you most forcefully or that remain most vividly before your mind's eye. These details can center on sights, smells, incidents, or people. Whatever they are, you can use them to engage the interests of your audience. In this way, you can use comparisons and contrasts to highlight the unfamiliar by setting it against the familiar. The end.